Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to a new Coffee with Kavaná. Today, my guest is Sharon Koifman from Canada, the creator behind Israel Activists, and he's on a mission to fix Israel public relations problem. This conversation is not only about defending Israel, it's about something much, much deeper. How ideas are formed, how narratives spread, how public opinion is shaped, and why truth often loses when it is not communicated with clarity, emotion, and discipline. His answer is not to ask people to read dozens of books before they speak. His answer is a practical masterclass, a fast, structured, and psychology-based system that teaches ordinary people, like all the guys you can see here, how to understand the fundamentals, explain Israel clearly, and repeat messages that are simple enough to be remembered and strong enough to be shared. At the center of this project is a powerful idea. Advocacy cannot depend only on facts, and facts matter, but they need structure. So they need the language, they need repetition, they need people who are prepared to speak with confidence in everyday conversations, on campuses, online, at rallies, and in public debates. Sharon's masterclass is built around the idea that people can learn the essential tools in a short time, not in a year, not in a semester, not even in a week. The goal is to give people the foundations, the language, and the confidence to become advocates and allow these advocates to become teachers for others. So today, we will explore the masterclass itself, why it was created, how it works, why psychology teaches us about persuasion, why historical context matters, and how a movement of trained voices could change the way Israel is understood around the world. So, welcome, Sharon, to the show, and thank you very much to come to One Coffee of Kavaná.
Well, what a pleasure, Roberto. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to tell the people, the world about our system.
Great, and now we will go to our first idea: why Israel needs a new advocacy system. Many people, care deeply about Israel, but when they face difficult conversations, they do not always know how to respond. So your class tries to solve that problem by giving people a clear method, not just more information. So my first question, Sharon, is what made you realize that Israel needed a new advocacy system like yours?
Well, unfortunately, I realized that about 20 years ago. The easiest, shortest answer is we're losing the PR battle. We're clearly doing something wrong. But my first realization when I was an activist in university, I had all the energy, I had everything that is needed to go fight the battle. I didn't know how to do it. My friends around me did not know how to do it, and nobody actually gave any answers. And until today, I find that we having equally those challenges, and we obviously need we need our people to come together, create a structure strategy for everyone, and this is where we are today.
Great. And why have anti-Israel slogans been so effective in shaping public opinion?
Well, they understood the idea that if you take simple ideas and repeat them often, millions of times, even if there's no contextual narrative, even if they don't understand what they're saying, as long as they're repeated multiple times, our brains will eventually surrender and accept to those ideas. I mean, how could it be wrong when so many people are saying the same thing? So just the simple concept, the occupation, apartheid, genocide, repeated billions of times creates an effect on the way society thinks about just because they hear it so much.
And by this idea, what do many supporters of Israel lack when they try to explain Israel to others? And this is very important because this will be the really beginning of masterclass.
Right. Look, they're lacking the appropriate terms to repeat. They're lacking a proper elevator pitch, the ability to explain the narrative in about a minute and a half. I mean, the majority of very proud, unapologetic Zionists that I've met across the world not only don't know how to actually explain our narrative, even the few that are really experts and really understand, that usually comes to us like, okay, you got 20 minutes, let me explain to you. Most of us do not have the tools to explain the narrative so quickly and maybe energize the conversation to a full conversation, but the ability to just go in, repeat few basic terms, just like our opponents have done so well. They've done with genocide and apartheid and occupation. We should do with indigenous, genocidal, anti-Israel marketing machine, child soldiers, dhimmis. Those terms should become part of our vocabulary every day so we can repeat it as much as they do. And just by that, we will create massive persuasion.
Great. Sharon, one of the most interesting parts of your work is the use of psychology. You speak about repetition, like you mentioned now, cognitive easy, emotional framing, and exposure effect. In simple terms, people remember what they hear often, right? And what is easy to understand. Your masterclass tries to make Israel advocacy clear, memorable, and repeatable. Why are repetition and simplicity so important when trying to change minds? So if you can go deeper on this idea, our audience will start looking, yeah, we need to do this.
So, there's this incredible YouTube video. I unfortunately I forgot the name of the influencer, but he was talking about a completely different topic. He was talking about why music from the 70s is so much better than the music in the 90s. Now, I'm Roberto, you're a little bit older than I am, not too much, right? I'm assuming we have a similar taste in music, or we accept that modern music is not so great, but he brought it to the scientific level. So what he showed that back in the 70s, when a music producer would want to come up with music, they would produce whether it's Beatles or any kind of album, but beside Beatles and all the famous musicians, they would produce 10 others, and they would give it to the radio, and the radio would play it once or twice, and people would ask for the radio to play it again. So the opinion of the tune, the opinion about the music was almost promoted democratically. And what happened in the 90s, now they start investing millions of dollars on every production, those musicians, New Kids on the Block, and Sync, Spice Girls. This was a major production that cost a lot of money. So what they realized that, hey, we're spending so much money, we cannot afford to fail. We cannot afford those ratio one Beatles to 9 others that we're not going to succeed. So how are we going to make sure that this is going to be a home run every time? So what they understood that in order to make it a success, you need to play the music in the shopping mall, in the streets, in the elevators, in movies, in many places before you put it on the radio. So our brain gets adjusted to it. The fact that they implemented that, and this is a concept that marketers understood for a long, long time. If you repeat an idea many, 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 many times, your brain just automatically gets adjusted to it, or as we call the mere exposure effect. This is what psychologists call this phenomena. Of course, our opponents understood this very well since the 60s. They've been repeating those terms: occupation, genocide, apartheid, repeating again and again and again till they achieve the mere exposure effect. Now, they also went through this specific process in order to pick those specific terms. And those terms need to be affect our brain. They need to achieve what we call cognitive ease. So cognitive ease is when our brain simply accepts ideas on the easiest level. When our brain doesn't require too much effort, it will absorb and accept those ideas as much as possible. So when you have an idea that is already familiar, that people understand, that drives on an emotional level, such as genocide, because we're familiar with genocide from actually our own history. It drives emotion. Everybody knows what it is, and then the anti-Israel marketing machine would take this idea and repeat it within their context. Suddenly, everybody thinks there's a genocide happening. Happening in this conflict. There's another component to creating those ideas is that they need to fit on what we call cognitive bias. It is the idea that if you see somebody well dressed coming into a fancy building, you automatically assume that this is a successful professional, even if it's possible that that professional end up being one of the clerk in the basement that has a good taste in outfit, or even the possibility that maybe we don't have such good taste in outfits and we don't know what's fancy or not fancy, but our brain automatically creates this connection. And our opponents understood that if you keep the Palestinians suffering and miserable, right, which is one of the biggest crimes that is happening right now, that you would automatically assume that their better half neighbors are the one that causing the damage. So when you create a messaging that fits, that is easy for their brain to absorb, that it fits on our cognitive bias, and you repeat it again and again and again, that is the formula to create persuasion. And this is what we ourselves need to start implementing on a mass scale, so we can have our own great messages that are easy to understand, that fit on our cognitive bias, and we can easily repeat. And this is how we can create mass transformation across the world.
Well, from this, Sharon, I do have a question. How do you create better messages, and how we can pass that on our own people?
Okay, so pretty much, like I said, got to think about cognitive ease, cognitive bias, and to keep it simple, I introduced a few terms that are emotionally driven. Indigenous is by far the most important term that we need to use because it has a deep connection. Everybody understands that the term indigenous with the suffering ancient populations of many regions. And we need to remind people that we are equally as indigenous. Now, you can sit there and explain, and I teach that in my course, how to explain, but before you need to explain, you just need to use that word a lot. And every time that you say the Jews or the Israelis, you say the indigenous Jews and the indigenous Israelis. And this, if you keep on using that term in any kind of persuasive language, people will start accepting that, hey, we're not foreigners, we're locals. Same thing comes, another term that I like to use a lot is genocide, a genocidal, because I'm actually referring to the opponents. Every time that you talk about the genocidal Hamas or the genocidal leadership of the Palestinian Authority, or the moment that you add this to the context, you immediately get people to understand that the other side has only one goal: to try to eliminate us from the river to the sea. Palestine will be Arab or Muslim, as they use it in Arabic, or Palestine will be free, is a genocidal term. We need the continuous reminder is how we create persuasion, and has to be part of our message.
Great. And what makes strong elevator pitch in Israel Advocacy? How will you do it?
Sorry, Roberto, I didn't understand the question. Please repeat.
Sorry. What makes a strong elevator pitch in Israel advocacy?
So elevator pitch has to be, for all the people who don't even understand what an elevator pitch is. It is the concept that in a ride of an elevator, you're able to get somebody to, or at least to understand what is your product, or at least, and even more, to entice them to want to have a conversation, to want to take a business card, or to want to have a conversation. We need to be able to compact the entire discussion to maximum 2 minutes. I try to aim at about a minute and a half. My first elevator pitch is literally saying that I don't know about you, but I believe that, but I feel that any conflict or any war is defined by who starts and who's preventing it from ending. And then within the next 30 seconds, I go and I show them that the Arabs from the 1920s have been committing massacres and forcing draconian anti-immigration policies. Even after 78% of what they call Palestine was giving to the Arabs, and they renamed it after an Hebrew-named river called Jordan, right? And then after all this, they started a civil war against us, and then they invited 5 different armies to commit the next genocide, which clearly shows that they are the one who's starting the war. And what prevents them from ending? We provided already 4 different solutions. After already the Peel Commission that we gave 80%, and we gave and the UN division, which they absolutely refuse and accept, another 4 proposals were given to give the Palestinians a country and an identity and a solution, and they were not interested because they want everything from the river to the sea. And that's how we can see that they are the ones who started it and the one that preventing from ending. Everything else is details.
You are right. You are right. Let me go to the fundamentals. Before the debate, the context. This is important. A key idea in your masterclass is that conversation should not begin in the middle of the story. Many debates about Israel start, with the latest headline. But you argue that people first need to understand history, identity, and context. So, before answering accusations, advocates need to explain the foundation of the story. Sharon, why do you believe the conversation about Israel should begin before 1947?
So first of all, the quick answer is because the story did not start in 1947. It started much longer than that. But that brings me to a very interesting context that I need to explain. And in my physical class, not in the master class, but when I give physical classes, I go through a little bit of a game, a little bit of a practice where I ask people, let's say that everything that the anti-Israel marketing machine is telling about us, that we are the Nazis and we are the white South African, the whites in apartheid South Africa. Let's say this is the case. Let's go to Auschwitz time, right? And suddenly, we are the Nazis, like they claim we are, and those poor Jews that are in the concentration camp or in the ghettos are shooting 3,000 missiles at us. Could the Nazis start saying, this is a very dark, morbid example, but it's important to understand what our opponents are hearing when we're trying to convince them, because they already sold the idea that we're Nazis. So if the Jews from the concentration camp shot 3,000 missiles at us and we say, hey, we need to respond, we don't have a choice, the Nazis don't have rights. Right? And that's what our opponents see every time. Every time that we make a case, listen, Israel has the biggest gay pride parades and the best innovation and everything that we do so wonderful. And we're trying to convince the other side, hey, you got to come on our side. What the other opponent hears is, oh, how nice. The Nazi is trying to be progressive. right? Because they already been sold. We're already handicapped by the concept that people have sold us as the foreigners, as the occupiers, as the people from outside. And because of that, I feel that we need to create a mass transformation by the way we have the conversation. And we can never start any conversation without providing context. That we are the indigenous people, that we're the locals, and they're the occupiers, and they're the oppressors. We just happen to beat them. And that conversation starts in the 1920s. That conversation starts when they actually kicked us out from 15 different towns, ethnic cleansed us. One of them was the famous massacre of Hebron. They kicked us out for the first time. They managed to evacuate every Jew for the first time in 3,000 years. That is the context that you need to start the conversation with, right? The context that they already got a land and they just decided to rename it Jordan, but that was Palestine. The context that they started committing massacres and mistreating us and abusing us for 20 to 30 years before we even talk about 1947. So the fact that the leader was hanging out like BFF with Hitler, that I'm referring to Amin al-Husseini, the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, this is the important part of history that not only the other side is ignoring, but so do we. So I cannot have a conversation without first saying, you mind if I provide a little context? And that's the first elevator pitch. Without it, we're just sounding we don't have that much time in the podcast today, but if you go through every level of advocacy that is out there, you're going to see that if you put it within I call it the Auschwitz rule, within the context of Auschwitz, if we're the Nazis and they truly are the oppressed people that they claim to be, none of our arguments actually make sense. And that's what we don't understand. So you need to start with the context pre-1947.
So from these ideas, how can someone explain the Jewish historical connection to the land in a simple and respectful way?
Well, so that one I kind of covered. There are two major elevator pitches. In my masterclass, I have the fundamentals, and then I have the advanced. The advanced is a completely different story by itself, but we need to provide the elevator pitch that says that they started it and they're prevented from ending. And the second one to define, to show that we're the indigenous people, right? By simply showing that we have been we had an active community for 3,300 years. Around 1,500 of those, we were the majority. We were the majority until the 7th century. We still had active communities in Sfat till 300 years before Zionism. We had the Shoftim and the biggest intellects sitting in Israel through all the century, being active community. And continuously we have been mistreated, abused, through mass atrocities, being treated as second-class citizen, or as we call dhimis, which one of the words that I use. Making the case that they started and preventing from ending, and making the case that we are the locals, is how you start every fundamental conversation. You will see it's mind-blowing. For years I've been debating with people. I've been sitting there and debating with people, and consider that I'm a decently experienced debater, and most people that come in are just angry amateur people that don't have those skills. I completely destroy their narrative, and right after that, the last part of the conversation is, but you shouldn't be there in the first place because you're foreigners. So why do that? Let's start the conversation with, we're locals. We have been there forever. We're the indigenous people, and they started massacring us when we were nothing.
Right. Right. Before we go to a section that I would like to call from masterclass to movement, can you give us where they can find you? Because this is, it's getting hotter and hotter and hotter. And it's very important that the audience should know where if they need to go and see a website or where they can connect with you. And then we will continue with this nice conversation.
Sure. So first of all, the website itself, where the system is at israelactivist.com. The masterclass is masterclass.israelactivist.com. For all the people who are listening to it in the next month, I'm giving a free coupon for anyone to listen. It's called Win the PR. Just put the coupon in there. It's going to last for about a month and a half. And so it's masterclass.israelactivist.plural.com. And of course, you can reach me at info@israelactivist.com. And I'm always there to help and anybody. And not only that, I'm hoping that people will join the team because I truly believe that this system is the one that's going to change the game for Israel. I forgot to mention one thing, Roberto. Once you finish that masterclass, after that, you come to the website israelactivist.com because we try to cover as much information as possible as quickly as possible. And I do recommend for people to come back and listen to it again instead of listening to unlimited different information and losing concentration. But of course, you will lack information. You will go out there and debate, and they will pinpoint some question. And that's why I create israelactivist.com, because it gives you instant answers, immediately. So everything that you feel you're missing from the masterclass is available. And the great thing is when you search for that information yourself, even if I give instant answer, there's so much stronger retention because you put that effort. So that is part of the system. The masterclass to teach you the fundamentals, to teach you some advanced skills, and then after that, go and search for it at israelactivist.com.
And this is true, guys. The masterclass is short, practical, and designed to be repeated. So the idea is that students can become advocates and eventually they can also help others to become advocates. So, Sharon, let me go and repeat because repetition is important. Why was it important for you to create a masterclass that people can learn quickly? It's a kind of a question and answer thing now.
Yes. So we have a short attention span. The idea at the end of the day that if we want to win the PR war, we need tens of thousands of young advocates, maybe some old advocates, equipped with this elevator pitches, with these terms, right? At the end of the day, the idea is that this message needs to be repeated as many times as possible. Hopefully in the billions, the little terms and elevator pitches in the million. In order to achieve that, you can do what we do as a community right now, depend on a few influencers that are sitting and advocating for us all day, or you can get my number is around 20,000 people repeating the same message. This is actually, based on my research, 20,000 is the number that we can reach in order to achieve that tipping point. So we need to get 20,000 young adults and others to be able to repeat the terms, to be able to repeat the elevator pitch, to know a little bit of the history. I'm referring to early history. I'm referring to the 1920s to the 1940s, not Abraham's Accord, which is all great. Don't get me wrong. I don't want people not to know what Camp David is, but it's not as important as actually knowing who is the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, which is a shame because the majority of people that I talk to don't actually know it. The key is, so in order to get 20,000 people to actually learn this narrative, we need to keep the course as short as possible. And short means you can't go over an hour, right? Because we live in a world of short attention span. I'm having a hard time getting people to listen to that course even in an hour. I feel that I need to remake another version, like an express version, in 20 minutes. because people really don't even have the patience for an hour. But I'm hoping that if there's going to be enough hunger and enough interest, I can get 20,000 to study this course properly.
You will do it. How should someone use the masterclass in real life? Online, on campus, at work, or in everyday conversations?
Hey, once you learn this, and I highly recommend also to go through the advanced course. Oh, the advanced course will actually teach you how to put any aggressive anti-Israel advocate on the defensive, or anybody who's not necessarily yet a heavy anti-Israel advocate to be afraid to be an anti-Israel advocate in the kindest, most caring way. This is it's. I would blow people. Even the advanced users, the people with a lot of knowledge, I recommend to use the advanced course because it will turn the entire conversation on its head and will stop being defensive and will be we will go on the offense, right? But study the course and go to the world and start having conversations. Not big, heavy debates. Start talking to people, to your friends about it. Start talking to your parents. I actually recommend in my course, I actually give prompts for AI that you can put in it and have a conversation with ChatGPT or with any other AI tool. This is how you get to practice this. And then after that, when you're lacking some information, if you don't feel you're still strong enough, go back, maybe listen to the course again, or go to Israel Activist and just type in and find out the questions. So the key, of course, is take this information, start having conversation in the real world. That is the ultimate practice. Or use AI. If you get stuck, immediately type the question into IsraelActivist.com search engine, and you keep on learning, and you're becoming an expert so quickly. And this is how we're going to win the game, right? Is by accumulating people that are experts. But like I said, actually, I take that back. I don't need everybody to be an expert. I just need everybody to be able to repeat 5 terms and to repeat 2 elevator pitches, and that will be the most powerful thing. That will create more impact than being an absolute expert in debating on Piers Morgan or social media or whatever the case is.
Sharon, there's a lot of energy here. Would you be able to give a few more pieces of advice on how to completely change the dynamic of the conversation?
Okay, all right. So now let me give a little bit of a little tidbits from the advanced course, and this is one of the most powerful aspects. I find that as a community, our entire conversation is always so defensive. Somebody goes, Israel did the and then you go, no, it's not true. Israel's not this, Israel is not that. And then they go, Israel's and then we go, and we always play on the defensive. And there's a perfect way to go on the offensive. Now, when I mean offensive, it doesn't mean attacking Hamas or attacking Palestinians, because honestly, I don't think they care. I think the world moved away from caring that Hamas is an absolutely abusive terrorist organization that abuse their own people, that are creating this continuous need to have conflict forever till they commit complete genocide against the Jews. It seems like nobody cares about that. But instead of going to somebody and trying to debunk what they say, or instead of accusing Hamas or calling them anti-Semites, right? So some people being called anti-Semite, it's almost like a reward. It's like, yes, I made it. You go to them and you say, you don't care about the Palestinians. You don't care about human rights, right? You start with that. And then you're going to see the most, and then these insecure idiots are going to sit there and go, what do you mean? Everything I'm doing. It's like, really? You care about the apartheid that is happening in Lebanon, where they can't hold any professional jobs like doctors and lawyers and engineers and can't own real estate? You care about the genocide that is happening in Syria against the Palestinians that were starved to death for years and ethnically cleansed? Do you really care? Do you care about human rights? Do you care about Sudan? Do you care about the genocide against the Uyghurs? What do you care about? Right? No Jews, no news? Well, this is so instead of having a conversation, always, first of all, so my strategy, the big summary of my strategy, provide the context, provide the two elevator pitch, move on to offense by making it clear. If it's a neutral listener, you don't attack them. You're saying, listen, the people that claim to advocate for Palestinians don't actually advocate for Palestinians. Hamas and foreign parties like UNRWA and Qatar are actually abusing them, grooming them as child soldiers, making them, brainwashing them to hate and keeping them in this continuous abusive reality just so there can be this open sore in the conflict. And those so-called pro-Palestino, as I call anti-Israel advocates, are promoting this. I'm making sure that they suffer forever. So I believe at the end of the day, like I said before, most people that already have a preconditioned idea of who the Zionists are automatically assume we're the bad guys. Don't have that conversation anymore. Stop having the conversation and start talking about the people that are really abusing the Palestinians, the people that claim to be human rights. And oh boy, are you going to change the conversation? That is the most powerful tool. When I go to anti-Israel protests, which at my older age I stopped doing it, right? But every once in a while I come and I go, it's like, you don't care about the Palestinians. It's like, and the entire dynamic of the conversation changes. It's so powerful.
Oh, great. I mean, this is energy. This is what I wanted to hear. Well, time is flying, and I would like to tell my people that Sharon Koifman Masterclass more than a course. And believe me, guys, it is a method. He combines history, you hear psychology, repetition, and practical communication tools to help people speak about Israel with more confidence. The main idea is so simple. Truth matters, but truth also needs language, structure, and people willing to repeat it. This conversation, this one here, reminds us that the advocacy is not only about reacting, and we listen this word many times here, reaction. It is about preparing. It is about understanding the story before entering the debate. And it is about giving ordinary people the tools to speak clearly in a world often dominated by slogans. Sharon, thank you for joining us, and thank you for sharing the vision behind Masterclass, the Israel Activist Masterclass. Thank you very much for coming to One Coffee with Kavaná. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Roberto. It's been a real pleasure.
Bye-bye, guys. See you in my next Coffee with Kavaná. It will be great, like this one. Bye-bye.